Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Rotary in the new year. And I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and have all of your resolutions penned in. We'll be checking on those come around June. I welcome you. I'm Jane Klingman Scott. I'm the president of the Muskegon Rotary. Today we are having a program from Gambia, which I'm looking forward to. We will say the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll have a little literacy. And then the reflection will be offered by Emily Morgenstern. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as Emily makes her way up here, I think we caught her mid-plate. There she is. The little bit of literacy. Okay, over the vacation, well, actually the last 2 or 3 days, I have had a conversation every single day that includes this phrase, oh, you know that guy, it's on the tip of my tongue, you know. Yeah, you. And I read over the weekend in the Times the article about that kind of memory issue, and of all of the things that you can do to remedy that, one of them is to read fiction, because our minds operate better recalling things if they are in context or if they're in a story. So read fiction, according to this expert who's it'll come to me. It'll come to me.
I remembered to move the mic up this time. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. So obviously, this is a time to reflect on things that happened in the past and then look ahead at the new year. So I just have a short little reflection for all of us. This is a time for reflection as well as celebration. As you look back on the past year and all that has taken place in your life, remember each experience for the good that has come of it and for the knowledge you have gained. Remember the efforts you have made and the goals you have reached. Remember the love you have shared and the happiness you have brought. Remember the laughter, the joy, the hard work, and the tears. As you reflect on the past year, also be thinking of the new one to come. But most importantly, this is a time of new beginnings and the celebration of life.
Thank you, Emily. Enjoy your meal. We will reconvene in about 10 minutes or so for our program. I think that was a good ring because I saw Kim flinch. We are going to begin our program. And we will begin our program by inviting our guests forward. And so if Mike and John and Christy and Mark would like to come forward with your guest.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I am pleased to introduce you to my son, Eric, who has recently returned to the United States after having lived more than 20 years in Japan, working on the director's level as a designer and a project manager. I am so pleased that Eric is here because I want him living in the USA with me. Thank you.
As you noted, we have a purple pinky booth today, and 4 interactors, I'd just like to have them stand and be recognized, are learning the ropes for how to do one at their respective Interact clubs. Jaylee Schultz is president, North Muskegon Interact. To her left, secretary of the North Muskegon Club, Sophia Lindsay. Standing right over here, Victoria Guerrero, esteemed member of the Muskegon High School Club. And Zuri Labrenz is are you the secretary? That's right, vice president of the Muskegon High School Club. Please welcome them. And I'd also like to recognize our guest speaker today, Bella Lindsay from North Muskegon's Interact Club, now at the University of Pennsylvania. Please stand, Bella. And her mother, Sabrina Sabrina Santiago Lindsay, and her mother, Jane Appleton Shapka. Please stand, or please hold your hand up so they can see who you are.
Hey, hopefully these two are familiar faces for you by now. Design and Emma, Design from Thailand and Emma from Austria. Believe it or not, their exchange year here is already half over. They're halfway through. So I'm asking you, if you haven't reached out to them and invited them to go to a movie or to a concert or to a museum or just come for dinner at your home, I encourage you to do that because time is flying by. So, all right, so welcome.
And I invite Mark Myers to come forward and he will introduce our guest in our program.
Thank you, President Jane. Good afternoon, Rotarians, and Happy New Year. I'm Mark Myers. I'm here on behalf of the World Community Service Committee, and it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Isabella Santiago Lindsay is a junior at the University of Pennsylvania studying economics and global health. She's a proud North Muskegon alum. And past president of the Rotary Interact Club. And you'll hear more about that, I'm sure. This past summer, she spent 3 months on the west coast of Africa in the Gambia, working on a solar and water project to support maternal and child health. In the future, she hopes to work for the World Health Organization, or another United Nations organization after obtaining a PhD or master's degree. I connected with Bella as chair of World Community Service through John Noling. Heard about her amazing project, and our committee, and of course this club donated towards that project. I also brought it to the WEHOP board, and the WEHOP board donated as well. And we'll hear more about that from Bella. So please join me in welcoming Bella Lindsay.
All right. Before I begin, I would like to thank a few people for their support of my project this summer. So I'd like to start by thanking John Noling for his support in getting this to you guys and helping me get a donation. I'd also like to thank Mark Myers and the World Community Service Committee for their support and donation, as well as WeHop through Mark Myers, and then also my grandma, Jane, and my mother, Sabrina, for their support as well. All right. We can start the presentation. Okay, so powering maternal and child health in the Gambia, and I will begin. So to give a little roadmap of what I'm going to talk about, first I'm going to give a little background on the Gambia as a country, the culture, the people, my experience there as well. Then I'm going to talk about the hospital that I was working at, which is called Buyam General Hospital, BGH for short, as well as Power Up Gambia, which is the nonprofit organization I was working for, PUG for short. And then after that, I'm going to talk about this summer, the 3-month project that I worked on. And following that, I'm going to talk about the next direction of my project and my work in the Gambia. All right. So first, I'll start with some background on the Gambia. I had no idea where it was, honestly, before I went there. So maybe you guys don't either. So to begin, if you can see that little red circle on the left-hand map, it's the smallest mainland country in Africa. It's situated right in between Senegal, completely surrounded by Senegal, and it follows along the Gambia River. So the right-hand map shows kind of a better depiction of that. And the population is only 2 million, so it's a very, very small country. So now we'll talk a little bit about the culture. This first picture here is myself and 2 other interns that were in the Gambia with me this summer, also from Penn. This is us on Tabaski, which is a holiday in the Muslim culture that we were able to celebrate. It's a 2-day holiday. It was a really amazing experience. This next photo is a photo of sister wives that were part of one of the host families I was staying with. And I think this is a really cool picture to show some culture of the Gambia, because these women are wearing the same outfit to show that their husband treats them equally. And then it was also very interesting for me to experience society in which men could have up to 4 wives. Here's a photo of a traditional dish. I can't remember what it was called right now off the top of my head, but we would do a lot of cooking with the families there, so that was great. And then this is in the market. You can see beads, you can see different cloths. It was really great. There were huge markets. They were beautiful. And a little more, this right here is called a geli geli. This is the main mode of transportation throughout the country. There's Nike signs on it. There's Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and it says Obama all around it too. So that's just a little taste of what those are like. This is my bedroom. I shared it with one of the other interns from Penn who is working on this project with me. And as you can see, we had a mosquito net because it was the rainy season when we were there. So malaria was very prevalent, unfortunately. We stayed clear of it. And then this picture here is some kids. This is what they do for fun. If you have a family donkey, you hook up whatever contraption you can find and you ride it around the neighborhood. And then here is myself and some boys in the village that I was staying in. My village was called Biam, and there was 4,000 people that live in the village itself. And then here's my last slide, a little more. This is myself and 2 ladies from the Gambia, as well as the 2 other interns after a wedding that we were able to go to. That was an incredible experience. It lasted 4 days. This is one of the markets. These are Jordans, and I actually ended up buying so many pairs of shoes there because they were so much less expensive than in the US. And then here's myself and a boy from the village. And finally, here is us at prayer on the Tabaski day. So hope that was a good little background on the country. Next, I'm going to talk about who we are as in the organization I was working for, as well as the hospital. Depicted here is the hospital. It is the largest rural hospital in the Gambia, a country that only has 7 hospitals. So Power Up Gambia, the organization I was an intern for, was founded in 2006. And what they have done is they have installed a 64 kilowatt solar system at Buyam General Hospital where I was working. And currently they're working on and finishing installing a 84 kilowatt solar system at Bansang General Hospital, which is about 2 hours further into the country from the coast. They have done a lot other than just these solar systems. They've also done a lot of technical trainings, as well as they've created solar suitcases, which are solar powered ultrasound systems that are very, very useful in rural villages. And then Buyam General Hospital was built in 2003 by the British, and it's the largest rural hospital in the Gambia. It sees 30,000 patients per year, and there are 120,000 plus people or patients in the catchment area of the hospital who have this hospital as their primary point of care. All right, and so before I talk about my summer project, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background on who I was working with. So first you can see myself, and then my partner on the project, Ashna Patel. She's a year younger than me at Penn. And then the bottom, you see Kappa. He is the CEO of the hospital I was working at. And I actually got to work right under him all summer, which was incredible. It was a great experience. He actually just got moved to the hospital. And before being there, he was working in the capital of the country. And he actually developed a hospital from the ground up by partnering with a Rotary in Holland, not Holland, Michigan, the other Holland. And it was a $3 million project. So he's just quite an incredible leader and a great person to have on my team as we work more with the hospital. And then the last person is Lynn McConville, who is the director of Power Up Gambia. All right, so now I'm going to transition into speaking about what we did this summer, what we're all here for right now. So on this map, I wanted to show you where the hospital is. and introduce the project. So what we did was there's these 8 like community health posts is what they're called. And these are the places that a lot of people end up going for care because the hospital is so far. And some of these places are up to 2 hours away by car to the hospital. A lot of people, honestly, most people don't have a car. So these are very important places for care. And unfortunately, a lot of them did not have power or water. Lack of water being very dangerous for lack of sanitation, and then lack of power being very dangerous for births that happen at night because you can't see. If you can't see, it's very hard to deliver a child and suture after. I also wanted to touch on how this project allowed us to support 3 of the 7 Rotary International objectives, which are fighting disease, providing water and sanitation and hygiene, and then supporting mothers and children. So what these renovations allowed us to do with support of donations from Muskegon Rotary and WeHop was first install small solar panel units that powered lights, fans, and charging medical and personal devices. It allowed us to have phones at these centers, which was very important for emergency medical cases so they could call and get the hospital ambulance to come to transport mothers to a hospital if needed. It also allowed us to establish connection to reliable water sources. A lot of the times there were water pumps in these villages, but the health center itself just didn't have a sink. So all it took was piping underground and putting a sink in, which is really not too expensive. And that's a very important thing for sanitation, as I mentioned before. And then it also allowed us to improve infrastructure. We could establish sound corrugated steel roofing, cardboard ceilings, and tiling. A lot of them had water through them and then mold because of that. So we got to replace those. And then finally, what we did was improve the furnishing, which provided sufficient labor beds, windows, doors, chairs, and paint. So this is a little on what our fundraising looked like. And as you can see, Muskegon Rotary and WeHop were 2 great big donors for the project. We ended up raising almost $17,000 over the course of the summer to make these renovations at the 8 health posts happen. If you do the math there, that's only about $2,000 per each site to really improve the care that's being able to be provided. And our objectives for doing this was to decrease maternal mortality. Mortality rates in the Gambia for neonates as well as mothers is incredibly high. I'll touch on that a little more later. It also allowed us to combat open defecation. Some of the villages didn't have any latrines. So at one of the sites that especially faced this issue, we were able to install a latrine. And then we also hoped to, and we did, I think, reduce male disengagement from reproductive health. That was a big problem. Men weren't really involved in the healthcare of their wives and their children. So by doing these projects with the villages, we were able to get the men help in the labor of the renovations and therefore get them more involved in their wives or children's healthcare. So this is a very important part of the project. The renovation stakeholders, I just touched upon how the men in the villages helped. And I'll talk a little more about who else helped. So village alcalos are like the elders of the community. Whenever we were starting renovations in a new community, we would sit down, myself, the chief of the hospital, Ashna, and Lynn, and we would talk to them. The chief was great for that because he spoke the language. There are so many different languages spoken throughout this region. So we would speak with them and whom they represent to make sure we were getting, everything in order for the renovations. Next, we brought the maintenance team from the hospital itself because they had more specialized skills to do things like building this deep hole for the latrine. We also would talk to ward counselors who are governmental elected officials and village development committees to get them involved in the process. And this picture is one of the ward counselors of this region and the chief of the hospital exchanging money so that they could go buy the, I think it was the paint within their village to use for the health post. And then finally, our partners, our donors from Muskegon Rotary to WeHop. And so next, this is my favorite part, showing kind of the before and afters. I hope these pictures are big enough, but you can see here, this is Bambara, a village called Bambara. They actually have their own language, which was really cool to me because only like 2,000 people live there. And as you can see here, there's no ceiling. There's a corrugate roof, but it's not in good condition at all. The floors are just cement. The windows a lot of them are broken. They're not locked. the paint is not good. And then you can also see women outside of it just standing around. This is when, I forgot to mention this, the hospital team goes on a monthly rotation of treks to provide healthcare services at these places, such as checkups for children, ultrasounds, etc. And so here's some women in this village going to it. A lot of women use this service because there's nothing else. And so now I'll show you after the renovations. This took roughly a month and a half. We were able to get new roof, paint job. We were able to put in ceilings, a small solar system with lights, fans. We also were able to put in a latrine at this site, as well as delivery beds and windows and doors that locked. So here's another site called Da Salame. This was actually the first site we worked on. As you can see, kind of faces the same problems. There's some black molding here, which is very dangerous for anybody's health. There's a curtain you can see in the bottom right-hand photo that was supposed to divide the women getting an ultrasound from like people waiting. It's not very great for privacy. And this was also the delivery room, also not great for privacy. So here's the after. You can see the light in the ceiling and the fan. The upper right-hand photo, maybe you can see the 2-paneled solar system, which provides the light. There's a sink, which we just had to connect through an underground source, and then new paint job as well. So as touched upon before, there were 8 health posts we were working on. I believe 6 of them are fully completed at this point. This is one health post called Kappa. They were in decent condition. However, at the time that we initially assessed these posts, we didn't realize that their water pump was broken or broke afterward. So now something I'm doing with hope and support from Muskegon Rotary or Muskegon Area Interact Clubs is we're seeking $2,000 to fix this broken water pump there. And it's a solar powered water pump, but the pump itself is broken. I think the solar powered water pumps is such a cool concept. I had never heard of that before, but it was very interesting to me that like just such a small solar unit could pump water for an entire village. Very powerful thing. So next, I'm going to talk about where we can go and where I'm hoping to go with this project with my partner Ashna. And so what now? So the problem at hand still is that Buyam General Hospital is the Gambia's top rural care provider. However, its neonatal mortality rate is 2 times the national average. And so if you can think back to that photo with the 8 posts in the hospital in the central region, these health posts are now being lifted up to a better standard of care. However, what we want to do is we want to encourage institutional delivery at the hospital because the hospital is much better equipped with doctors who are better trained rather than just community health workers. So it's very important that we can now actually bring the hospital up to a standard of care that can provide viable care to mothers and children. So that's where I'm moving next, is to try to improve the maternity ward and to install a NICU at the hospital itself. So the hospital has no NICU, no specialized equipment, no proper delivery beds and rooms, just like all the other health centers within a 130-kilometer radius. So the solution that we're proposing is my friend and I and the CEO, we came up with a proposal that is a $57,000 project to increase the level of care for mothers and children at the hospital. And we recently received, just last week, a $30,000 matching grant from an organization called Seeds of Change, which is very exciting, but we're moving forward with that now. So here's some photos of the maternity ward. As you can see in the upper left-hand photo, that's a delivery bed. It's like not even the size of a person. You can't even lay down on that. It's also rusting. And then there's also curtains separating the beds, which is really honestly terrible because men aren't going to come into this and they never do. So I'm not pre-med, but I actually help deliver children, which is really cool because they're like, oh, you're from America and you have an education, so help us deliver these kids. So I delivered like 10 kids over the course of the summer. Yeah. But men were never there because of the lack of privacy. You can also see a lot of molding on the ceiling, water. And then there's one photo, I think the bottom right-hand corner, there's a baby on the bed. There's no incubators. And then also there is a photo in here with an oxygen tank, but it's meant for an adult and they also only have one. So if a premature baby is born and it needs oxygen, it's likely not going to make it. They usually don't. So with that said, the objectives for this are to build a functional neonatal intensive care unit, to equip the labor ward with proper equipment, to construct private delivery rooms, to fix the roof, ceiling, and floor, to establish a central nurses station in the middle of the center, which will enable timely emergency response and combat maternal mortality. So with that said, just a little on the cost breakdown that we worked out for all the equipment, roughly $57,000. And then to kind of talk more about the project and tie it all together, what these 8 rural health posts were helping do is impact the lives of 120,000 people living in these areas. It's not just women and children. The men have to go to these places too. It's where they can get testing, where they can get help, medicine if they're sick. 18,000 people in this area at the time are women and children of, women of childbearing age. And then there are also roughly 6,000 annual births in the area combined. And here is a little bit on the maternal mortality and neonatal mortality. So I'll start with the maternal mortality. At the hospital, it's 0.092%. The national average is 0.289, and then the regional average was 14%. Very incredibly high for the last year. So what is that? Like every 1 in 10-ish, a little more children are dying when they're born. And then also, or mothers, excuse me. And then another objective was to lower the neonatal mortality rate. You can look through these figures here. The hospital is 5%, the national is 3%, and the regional is 9%. So from that, you can see that it's much better to be able to bring women and children to the hospital than to leave them in these rural regions. So with that said, that's all I had for the presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening. Also, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate all the support I can have from my hometown, even when I'm out in the Gambia. So thank you all so much.
We are now, the other kids in the audience, they're kids, the young adults in the audience, then if you get to go to university, you might be able to paint, put roofs on, and deliver babies. So keep on the path. I know there's got to be a ton of questions out there. So Dave, why don't you start?
Those of us that were also in the junior year somewhere in our lives at college are humbled by what you do. I mean, I don't know what you were doing when you were a junior, but this wasn't it for me. As a non-governmental organization, how was your relationship, or is that organization's relationship with the government, national government? And was it positive, negative, or neutral?
Great question. So the hospital itself and all its employees are actually employed through the government, which is very interesting. So the CEO, he's technically a governmental employee. And a lot of what we did too, I talked about how we spoke with local governmental representatives. We also went up to a little higher than that to talk about our project to, I can't remember the name of the position, but he was like second to the president. So that was really cool to be able to meet him. But they have, the organization Power Up Gambia has so much support from the government, and they quite honestly would like any help they can get. So if it's coming, they're very welcome to it.
With the new updates on all of the medical and everything, as you progress through this, is there any way to teach new people those skills and then send them out to these branches to give them better? It's not going to be perfect, but it would give a much better medical thing if they came there and learned how to do it and then sent them to all of these different different places.
Yeah, so great question. I think that would be very helpful. And Power Up Gambia too, I showed you guys my room and my mosquito net wasn't the best condition. So what they're working on right now with the donor is improving the housing for interns, and they're trying to get medical students from the University of Pennsylvania out to the hospital for the summer or for a longer amount of time to have them getting clinical experience while also providing the hospital in these regions with better care.
So Bella, you probably know this question's coming. We got some interactors in the room from 2 clubs. We've got some youth exchange students. You were in their shoes just a few years ago. Tell us about any lessons you learned through Rotary Interact and Rotary back then that have impacted you between that time and your current time, please.
Great question as well. So Rotary Interact is the reason I believe that I wanted to do something like this. In high school, I always loved being a part of Interact. I wanted to work my way up to president in that position so I could do as much as I could. I also had the opportunity to go to El Salvador in high school, which my little sister is going to do for her spring break. So that's exciting. But the opportunities that Interact exposes you to and lets you participate in, I believe can inspire a lot of kids in Muskegon, as it did for me, to want to do more and see more of the world and help more.
This is not a question, but a comment, a couple of comments. One, it's a pleasure meeting you in person. We did a lot of texting and emailing, and I was really impressed with Bella, but now I'm even more impressed. What a fantastic presentation. What I want to mention is, because she didn't in her program, Bella's original project was to raise $8,000. She was so successful that she more than doubled that amount. So when you see the ceilings and the paint and the furnishings, and I think even the water piece, those were added to the scope of the project because she was so successful. So congratulations on an amazing project and impact. And I know you'll raise the funds for your next couple of projects.
Thank you so much.
Question from the Zoom. It's like, is the GoFundMe site still available? People want to
Yeah, okay, so she asked if the GoFundMe site is still available, if people want to donate through that. It's not, but I would be more than happy to open it back up. I'll make sure to get that out to somebody who can disperse it to you all.
Bella, congratulations, really impressive. And it really turns my juices on with this project. I'm curious, and Mark, you may be aware of this as well. Is there a Rotary Club in the Gambia area where you are? And have we looked at the possibility of doing a joint project with them, either through Muskegon Rotary Club or through the district or whatever else?
Yeah, so they have 2 Rotary clubs throughout the Gambia. There's one in Banjul, which is the capital, and then there's one in Bansang. They're both active clubs. I tried to reach out to them, but I was living in a rural part, which was around 3 hours by Gelly away from them. So it was hard for me to contact them, but I'm sure that we could, especially because the CEO of the hospital that I was working with has connections to Rotary within the country. Yeah.
Bella, you've delivered 11 more children than I have. You may have shared this earlier, and forgive me if you already have, but would you share your plans postgraduate?
Yeah, so I have a couple of ideas right now. I'm a junior, so I guess now it's 2023. I'll graduate in 2024. When I graduate, I plan to work for probably like 3 years. I'm working for a healthcare consulting company in Chicago this summer, and hopefully that'll be my full-time job after graduation. But after that, I want to go back to school to get, I'm thinking about getting a master's in public administration in international development. It's a mouthful. Or I'm thinking of getting a PhD in global health, or maybe something that ties global health and economics together. Then I want to work for the WHO or an organization like that.
Bella, congratulations on your good work. How did your university get tied in with the Power Up Gambia
Great question. I actually meant to include a slide on that. But so in 2006, a professor of medicine at the Penn Hospital somehow ended up in the Gambia. I'm not quite sure, but she brought a couple of students with her that were my age, around 1920. And one of them was named Catherine Cunningham Hall. And when Catherine was at Buyam General Hospital, she was speaking with their CEO at the time, and he had asked her, because I didn't really explain this before, the power from the line was very spotty. So if the power would go out, which it did very often, oxygen tanks, they don't work anymore. If they had incubators, they wouldn't work anymore. So the CEO had asked Catherine, a 19-year-old girl, can you raise the money, which was $250,000, to install this solar system? And she did. It took her about 2 years. I actually spoke with her 2 weeks ago, which was incredible to get some ideas for how she did it. But that's how it started. And once she started raising the money for that, she then founded Power Up Gambia in the process of it. And fun fact, she actually was on Forbes 30 under 30 for it. Yeah.
No more questions. I'm again flabbergasted by the young people that we have around us. So Bella, you're an inspiration, and just to be that close to a culture and a society that this is still such a huge problem. It makes us humble when we have to choose between 5 different medications to cure our toenail fungus when we can't even get power or water to this mother's producing a new generation for us. So Bella, thank you very much. And Bella, a contribution will be made in your name to the Malala Fund. And I think over the last couple of weeks, we all understand how important it is to keep supporting young women as they're trying to get their education so they can have an impact on the world like Bella has. And now we will transition to an age-old problem of getting old. And our birthday people who are celebrating this week are Lisa Sabarin on the 9th of January, Megan Bayard Caraba on January 10th, and Josh Silvas on January 11th. Are any of these people present that we can sing to? Well, I'd lead us all in a song, but I'll spare you that. But we do have another fun thing for our club is to meet our members on a more individual basis. We have members of our club who strive to make a Rotary membership rich and diverse, and it's important avenues of service in our community. So we're going to spotlight one of ours today, and that is Craig Peralta.
My name is Craig Peralta. I retired from the post office not quite 6 years ago. I got into the Rotary kind of by accident. I got invited to help with the chili cook-off with Rewind. And I kind of stayed with them. And the next thing I know, I was part of Rewind and the Rotary, and I joined the full-time Rotary, and I've been a member ever since 2020. I had Nino's restaurant for a lot of years, 40 years. I do a lot of catering still. I'm good at entertainment. I have a big selection of entertainments at a national level I can bring that I'm trying to bring into the Rotary now. I had a comedy club for 5 years, so I have a lot of good experience at a national entertainment thing that I think Muskegon County is ready for. So I'm hoping to do a lot of that with the Rotary Club as well. I want to get involved with Rewind that helps a lot of the students that are in the high schools right now, do a lot of things, and such a good program that they have with Rewind, including a lot of the high schools and stuff, getting them involved in things. I'm good with the entertainment part is a good fundraiser for a lot of groups. I can put together entertainment that can generate a lot of revenue for like the rewind groups. And I know that in the summertime, the Rotary is involved in a lot of the summer activities that go around the town. A lot of my contacts I could include that could bring in major entertainment for those Rotary Club events. Not just a local thing, it could be brought up to a national level.
Jim, you have a recruit here for the social committee. We have next on the agenda is our poetic license. So if Ginny would come forward.
Before I do the poetic license, I would just like to follow up with, President Jane noted at the end of the month, ditching your New Year's resolutions. Some of you might remember a few years ago, we did a Brave Rotarian contest called Holidays. And January 17th is the National Ditch Your New Year's Resolutions Day. So mid-month, not the end of the month. So Mark, one at a time. Anyone, up to you.
Oh, Rem spray.
Oh. I am very sorry to see you go, dear. Take it up with Mark. You are pastoral poetry. What is a pastoral poem? A pastoral poem explores the fantasy of withdrawing from modern life to live in an idyllic rural setting. All pastoral poetry draws on the tradition of the ancient Greek poet Theocritus, who wrote romanticized visions of shepherds living rich and fulfilled lives. So in that spirit, we're going to read a poem from Christopher Marlowe. Side note, if you ascribe to historic conspiracy theories, he's the one that was really supposed to write those plays that Shakespeare got credit for. But this is a poem of his called The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. You will note this, Rem. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that valleys, groves, hills, and fields, woods or steepy mountains yield. And we will sit upon the rocks, seeing the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. It does go on, but that was a special one for us. So it was really fortuitous that that was his, although he might not feel that way right now. One more.
All right, next victim.
Oh, you're kind of rubbing your hands there. You're getting into this.
Don Collis.
Oh, Don, and I don't think he is, but his is the poetry form known as an ode. And I think you all remember this from Brit Lit, or at least high school English somewhere. What is an ode? An ode is a short lyric poem that praises an individual, an idea, or an event. In ancient Greece, odes were originally accompanied by music. In fact, the word ode comes from the Greek word Idion, which means to sing or to chant. So this one was an easy one to select. This is about one of my favorite poets, John Keats. It's called Ode, so obviously, on a Grecian urn. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thou express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts thy shape, of deities or mortals or of both? In Tempe or the dales of Arcady, what men or gods are these? What maidens loath, what mad pursuit, what struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels, what wild ecstasy? I'm going to go to the last verse, which you will recognize more. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. cold pastoral. What old age shall this generation waste? Thou shalt remain in the midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. Next week will be our final class on poetry. We have 4 people remaining. We will eliminate 2, and then the other 2 will be our winners. So class dismissed till next week. Thank you, Mark.
Rotary is wonderful. I think we just witnessed a very tender moment. Yeah. There's always a balance. Yeah, yin and yang. We do now have announcements. We have a really wonderful event coming up, and that is the matinee presentation of Anne and Emmett, which is a play that has Anne Frank in conversation with Emmett Till. I think it's one you just don't want to miss. We are organizing a Rotary party, and to sign up to get your tickets, we have tickets reserved for Rotarians. Contessa Hood has the sign-up sheet. We're going to go to the theater and then out to dinner afterwards. So she's going to stand by the door at the end of the meeting. I told her to stand like this. She's probably a little bit more polite than I am, but make sure you see Contessa. We do again have the Purple Pinky that John had noticed. The Purple Pinky is a Rotary tradition. It raises money for End Polio Now, a mission that we had thought was accomplished a number of years ago. But wild polio has broken through our international efforts, and it actually has been seen in New York State. So we're not done with this. In the days when this was started, in many rural areas, to signify that a child had gotten the polio vaccine, they would paint their finger purple, and that's how they would track who got inoculated and who didn't. We carry this tradition on by painting your pinky purple as you contribute to this important effort in our world. I just heard from Darlene Colette that a friend of Rotary has passed away on Christmas morning, Connie Navarro. So keep her family in mind as they need comfort through this season. And I think that's what all of the announcements, and except for Alan Alpert is always on the lookout for those people who want to share their reflections with us. So if you have not had a chance or want in a while to share with us, please see Alan and he will put you on the reflection schedule. And now we will have the raffle, and this is a raffle for polio. I think it's important to remember why we're spending our $2 every week. And all the proceeds from this do go to the End Polio Now effort. So who do we have?
All right, so let's start with $20 and 540.
Right here. Oh, look, a student, yay. Hey, oh, look at this. That Sunday, I think it's the 13th. I think it's the. Something around the 13th. Oh, my goodness. This is the week that Rotary is supporting youth. That's wonderful. Thank you all for coming. Next week is our program is going to be from our fellow Rotarian Randy Lindquist to speak about the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District. Always fun to get an update from our educators. Thank you and have a wonderful week. What? I did fail your test? Oh, the 4-way test of the things that I think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build better friendships? Will it be beneficial for all concerned? Now